For this 10-minute flow for runners, I recommend 2 yoga blocks, but these poses can be done without. Let's get started today in downward facing dog. A few breaths here to land. You can pedal out through the legs, bringing one heel down and then the other. Beginning to wake up a little more through the hamstrings, the calves. When you feel ready, we'll inhale, the right leg will lift. You can bend your knee, stack your hips. Three-legged dog, any little movement you need to open up through the hips, the quads. Eventually, we'll step our right foot between the hands. You can lower the back knee, low crescent lunge on vinyasa. Hands can stay grounded to blocks if you'd like, maybe hands to hips, or extend them up overhead. About 3 or 4 breaths here, any little movements that you need. Making sure knee stacked up over ankle. You can also heel toe that right foot forward a little more. Maybe take some pulses to get into the hips. Stay here longer if you need, or we'll take a side bend. If you're not already there, lift up to stack your shoulders over your hips. Right hand to hip, or maybe reaches down to a block or the mat. Left hand will reach up towards the sky. On your inhale, lengthen up. Exhale, hinge over towards the right. Maybe sink the hips a little deeper, getting into that left hip flexor. About 2 or 3 more breaths here. As you feel ready, we'll come back through center. And shift your weight forward, plant the hands to frame your right foot. You can also add blocks underneath the hands. Tuck your back toes, lift your left knee if you're not already there. We're going to transition to half floor to the fishes or a deep seated twist. Bring your left knee towards your right calf. Slide the left ankle out away from you as you set your hips back. You can add a block underneath the hips if you'd like. You also have the option to extend that left leg forward if it feels better in the hips. Taking your twist over towards the right, so right hand behind the hip, left arm lengthens up. On your exhale, press your elbow into your right quad. Gaze can stay forward or maybe bring it over the right shoulder. A few breaths here. When you're ready, you can unwind, maybe take a counter twist, a little half push-up over towards the left. Eventually, we'll make your way back into downward facing dog. Any little movements along the way that you need. About 1 or 2 breaths in our downward facing dog. Taking that to the other side on your inhale, left leg will lift. You can bend your knee, stack your hips. Any little movement here through this left side. And on your own time, we'll meet in low crescent lunge. Step the left foot between the hands. Lower the back knee. Hands can stay grounded, maybe hands to hips, or extend the arms up overhead. A few breaths here, maybe taking some pulses or heel toe that left foot forward to create a little more space into the hips. Stay here, or we'll add the side bend. Shoulders stacked up over hips if you're not already there. Left hand to hip or reaches down to mat or block as you reach the right arm up overhead. And on your exhale, hinge over towards the left, maybe sink the hips a little deeper. And keep drawing that left shoulder back to square the collarbone towards the top edge of the mat. 1 or 2 more breaths here. As you're ready, here's that transition to half floor to the fishes or a seated twist. Plant the hands, frame the left foot. Bring your right knee to your left calf. And then slide that right ankle out away from you as you sit the hips back down. Option to straighten the right leg if you'd like. Twisting over towards the left, left hand behind the hip, right arm lengthens up. And on your exhale, twist, elbow to left thigh, gaze can stay neutral or maybe bring it over the left shoulder. A few breaths here. When you feel about even, begin to unwind, optional counter twist over towards the right, a little half push up towards that side. Eventually we'll make our way back to downward facing dog. Any little movements you need along the way. If you have those blocks, you can set your blocks underneath your hands for an elevated down dog. This will help us in the next sequence that we're about to do. About 1 or 2 more breaths here in our downward facing dog, stillness or movement. On your next inhale, our right leg will lift, three-legged dog. This time we'll bring our right knee over towards the left elbow, straighten the right leg like you're coming into fallen star. Lower the left foot down onto the mat. Keep the hands grounded on the blocks. And on your next exhale, lower your hips to a hover. Feeling a nice stretch across the right IT band, getting into those TFLs. You can kind of play here by maybe sliding that right foot towards the top edge of the mat. Once you found a good position, flex the right toes to really engage the right side. About 3 more breaths. Keep pressing into the blocks or the mat to press the shoulders away, keeping the hips to a hover. 1 more full breath in. On your next exhale, we'll lower the hips. Begin to unravel the chest as you windmill the left arm up overhead. We're going to make our way into a wide-legged side bend. So left arm will reach over towards the left leg. You can reach for the shin or ankle or foot. Right arm will sweep up overhead. And trying to keep the chest open, working here to stack that right shoulder over left. A few breaths here. And slowly begin to unwind. We'll meet in our downward facing dog. You can windmill the arms over towards the right, plant the hands, maybe on the blocks if you had them. Unravel. A few breaths here in your down dog to even out before we take that to the other side. On your own time, when you're ready, we'll inhale, left leg will lift. This time, left knee will reach over towards that right elbow. Straighten the left leg for this fallen star variation. Plant the knife edge of the left foot down on the mat. Keep the hands grounded as you lower your hips to a hover. Keep flexing the left toes towards the shin to activate the muscles. Begin to feel that stretch across the left side this time. And you can play here, adjust, maybe bringing the toes closer towards the top edge of the mat. A few breaths here. Keep pressing into the blocks or the mat as you keep your hips to a hover. Active stretch here, about 2 more breaths. As you're ready, here's that transition. Lower the hips. Keep the legs out to a V. Windmill the arms over towards the right, reaching the right arm over towards that right leg. Left arm reaches up and over. A few breaths here. Again, working to draw that left shoulder back, right shoulder under. And when you feel about even, we'll begin to unwind. We'll stay seated this time. We'll make our way into a seated forward fold. You can realign so you're square on the mat, legs out in front. On your inhale, reach the arms up overhead. On your exhale, lengthen the chest forward, nose to toes, chin to shin. About 3 or 4 breaths here. And slowly begin to lift back up. You can plant the feet, windshield wiper the legs, side to side. Option for a reverse tabletop or reverse plank by planting the feet. Hands behind you, press down to lift the hips. Eventually we'll make our way back into a seat. We'll end class here with a final breath. All together, we'll take a full breath in. Open mouth, let something go. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my practice with you today, and I hope to be with you next time you're on your mat.